recording because it says
bugs everywhere.
There we go. Nice. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Subspace Developer Sync. Today, we're just going to get an update on what everybody's been working on. Ozgun, you are at the top of my screen. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I was busy with Farmer Binary to Library transition phase 1 and adding code owners to Subspace repo and Subspace relay repo. Other than that, let me check. I'm preparing for the phase 2 and phase 3. Sorry, phase 2 is also done. Phase 3, I'm preparing for the phase 3 of the transition. And for that, we just had a meeting with you and Nazar. And I guess that's it on my side.
Thanks, Ozgun. Does anybody have any questions? And just to summarize, yeah, we got off a meeting. We're planning out the further abstraction of the bin to lib transition for the backend farmer for the farmer process, and that's going to allow us to fully integrate the desktop farmer and re-implement the CLI as well using the same library. And then once that's done, we'll be able to start working on the retrievability side by adding a RPC server into the farmer so that we can actually get pieces from the farmer. So that's what Ozgun's going to be focused on for the next few weeks. Okay, Nazar, you're up next.
All right, so I did a few smaller things like updating the code such that solution range early in the network during first 15,000 blocks will not actually kick in. So we can have very high very small block interval due to the fact that the size of the network will grow, but the solution range will not become more restrictive. That should help us to upload the Kusama archive and other parachains very quickly during testnet. The other thing I merged today was upgrade of Substrate to the October snapshot, because soon we'll have November snapshot, so it's just about time. On top of that, I started working on the palette vesting integration from ORML. I did a bunch of research and tried to understand how it works and why it works. There are interesting things that kind of make sense once you understand it. The way it's implemented, basically, the idea is that you will put some money into the account right away, and you'll put a lock on top of that money. So it's there, but you cannot spend it. And the lock will be released incrementally over time. So if we want to take away or cancel vesting, we basically need to not only remove the lock, we also need to remove the money from tokens from the account. So that will be something that we'll need to do later. We'll either have to write a custom palette or maybe wrap the call to the palette vesting with our own call, which will do 2 transactions atomically. But I'm in the progress. I basically have a branch on top of the October update that has palette vesting built into it. It's configured everything. It just doesn't have any vesting schedules yet. So that will be the next step. Also, I was working on some of the updates related to the tokens. I submitted the pull request about SS58 registry. I basically want to reserve for Subspace mainnet and testnet the token name, the prefix, and information about how many decimal points we will have in our token. So basically, we have the minimum unit of the currency, or token, which in our case will be Shannon, I think. And then it can basically have many digits. It's U128 data type. And the question is, at which point we, at which offset in that number, we basically put a dot and say, what is to the left is the Subspace credits, and what is to the right is fractions of it, right? So that will impact how many tokens we have, where we put this decimal point. And we discussed with Jeremiah that we want to have 18 decimal places. right now. So that is also in that registry defined such that when we read the balance in like minimum units in the Polkadot.js, we can actually interpret that as certain number of subspace credits. Because if decimal point in the wrong place, we will not read the correct number, right? So all those things were suggested. I don't see any active review, but I think some folks from Parity and they're looking into it. So they should help us get it merged. If you don't merge it, the branch that I have that uses this new prefix, it will basically conflict with Polkadot.js a little bit. So it will break some of the transactions related to balance transfers. That is why I'm waiting for that pull request to be merged in. Yeah, and a bunch of pull request reviews. That's it.
Great. Any questions for Nazar about any of that? Or comments?
Yeah, and a small note. I actually grinded on those prefixes to figure out what will look nice. And basically, I chose two prefixes. One is such that every address on Subspace will start with SU for the mainnet and with ST for the testnet, such that it just looks nicer.
Yeah, I think that's called a vanity address in crypto, but that's nice. Cool. And can you give us a quick update on the status of the parachains that you've been syncing, so everybody's aware of that?
Yes, I have Kusama Relay Chain as before. I have 5 more parachains fully downloaded. I have about 90% of the state mine, and I have synced about 90% of the Bifrost, and I believe also Moonbeam. And I have like 7 parachains still running, syncing from Genesis. And Karura is about 60% done, but it's from one finality, so it takes time. It's like 1.5 blocks per second. So yeah, I think by the end of today, I should have at least 2 more parachains done.
Okay, and you started all these like on Friday night, right? So we're already like 4 or 5
5
days.
or 6 days ago.
Yeah, so it could be like another week until these are done at the rate they're going.
I think it will be faster because I only have 12 cores, like only 12 cores. And I think I bottleneck by the cores and by disks a little bit. Once some parachains finish, it should release some of the resources for the other ones. So I expect they will be faster.
Okay. Cool. All right, Justin, you're up next.
Awesome. I haven't gotten too much developmental stuff done over the past couple of days. What I have been working on though, I've got the status page switched over to a Subspace organization repo, and I got it linked up with DigitalOcean. It's currently building on DigitalOcean. For some reason it got hung up last night, so I'm figuring that out. But once that finishes building, that'll be deployed, and I can speak with Diana on getting that added to the website. And then moving forward, I'll just be continuing to test out with the testnet, and I'm starting to get some of the scripts updated for easier usability for some of the users as we start to prepare for getting more people onto the testnet.
Can you give a little more background on what the build failure or what the issue is there?
It looks like it was a misconfiguration on my part. I forgot to include the package lock file. So because of the way DigitalOcean has it configured, if there's no package lock, they start to try building a Docker image. And for some reason that got hung up. So I just uploaded the package lock file to run through the standard like NPM workflow that I had been working with locally.
Okay. Yeah, let's try to get that done today. And if not, let's sync up with Nazar, ask him for help on that if there's a configuration issue.
Will do.
Right. And then on the testnet, can you just give an update on how many nodes we've got on the testnet right now?
Yeah, currently we've got about 4 nodes up. There's Nazar's node, the 2 Santa Clara nodes, and then my grinder node. And we're at about 111,000 blocks so far.
Okay, and so the two Santa Clara nodes are the Bootstrap node and the RPC node on the same DigitalOcean droplet, right? Okay. Okay, and the Grinder node is, that's the one that's got like the 4 terabytes of disk, right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one
Okay.
that you sent out to me when I got started.
Great. Okay, and just to reiterate, we're probably just going to keep it as these 4 nodes and until we get through like maybe the second iteration of the seeding from the history as the archiver gets working before we start onboarding the team. Hopefully this weekend, early next week, we'll be able to start doing that. Once we've onboarded the team, then we can start onboarding the ambassadors, and then we can start, onboarding people more generally in the Discord. But it's going to be over the next couple of weeks as we do that.
Perfect. And then last thing I'm working on is just locking down Bitwarden with 2FA and everything.
Okay, cool. Did you get a chance to watch the video from yesterday on what we're doing on the backend side for the archiver now?
Yes, yeah, I did go back and watch that entire meeting as well.
Great. Okay. All right. Any questions for Justin? All right. Liu-Cheng, you're up next.
Okay. Firstly, sorry for the bad connection. And I was working on, and actually I have made the tracking issue for the like the documentation PRs and potentially with some refactorings to understand the current code base better and deeply. And I have submitted a PR for the core primitives, and still on the review stage. And
Hey, Liu-Cheng, we're losing you. Maybe you want to drop your video and just do audio only.
okay.
Why don't you just shut down your video, Liu-Cheng, and maybe that tends to help sometimes. We can just do audio. Okay, we'll pause on Liu-Cheng while he works out his technical difficulties. Serge, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I was working on processing archive blocks. As I mentioned yesterday, I did some refactoring. So basically now we have 2 classes to provide blocks. One class is to interact with RPC API, like a standard processing, and another class is chain archive. And yeah, we get those blocks from RocksDB. And initially, I tried to re-implement some of the logic from source class, and it kind of works. But then I started to work on the performance issues that were mentioned yesterday, and yeah, it seems like if we switch to generators or async iterators instead of RxJS, it might slightly improve performance. So previously we had like 4-6 transactions per block, given that one block is 1 second. And after I switched to generators, it was 10-14. Still not far from our target performance, but yeah, there is some improvement. And
sorry, when you say 10-14, do you mean 1014 or between 10 and 14?
Between 10 and 14.
Okay, so we got about a 2x improvement.
Yes. Yes.
And that was after removing the bottleneck of waiting for confirmation that the transaction was included in the block.
No, actually, we were not. That was another trend. It was balance transfers and create feed transactions. There we wait for confirmations because we need to, in case of create feed, we need to wait for the event to get the actual feed ID. But for regular transactions, when we submit blocks, we don't wait for confirmations. We submit them right away.
So is it CPU right now?
Sorry?
Is it CPU bound? Does it consume a lot of CPU and that's why it's slow?
Well, we have some requests. For example, if we process blocks from RocksDB, we still need to fetch block hash because we store blocks as binary, right? But for the metadata, we need both block number and block hash. So this is one request, and there was something else.
Well, hold on a second. So we're doing a network request on top of each call to RocksDB to on finality as we seed from the archive to get the metadata.
Yes. Not the metadata. No, we ask for the block hash. So I'm not sure it's on finality, but anyway, yeah, we have to query RPC endpoint to get the block hash for metadata we submit to pilot feeds.
I'm wondering if you just take the binary that we have and hash it, whether it will be the same hash. It should, if we are doing it right. So you should be able to produce the same hash locally without making RPC request, theoretically.
Yeah, the idea is that when we're doing the sync from this RocksDB database, that there is no network at all, other than just a local network to propagate the transactions on the same machine. But we should not be doing any requests to any public API or on finality or any of these nets. That's the whole reason that we're putting it on here. So if there's something in the workflow that's blocking that, then we gotta figure out a way to remove that.
Yeah, I will try the workaround that I mentioned. And yeah, we have some read from the file system. I'm not sure we can get rid of that.
But those reads can be done asynchronously, right?
Yeah, they're always asynchronous at the moment.
Yeah, if there's a network request, then I would imagine that's probably the bottleneck, but those should still be getting queued up anyways, right? So they should be.
I think 10 requests per second, that seems about right if you're talking to on finality.
Oh, so we're getting
That's
rate
about
limited
as far as it goes. Yeah.
is the problem. Okay, we have, Serge, are you using like just a public endpoint for on finality?
I'm not using on finality. We're interacting, like we're processing Kusama, right? We use on finality for parachains, but Kusama I use like the standard default endpoint.
But still, it's not as fast as just reading it locally, I guess.
Yeah.
So the Kusama
even locally, at the very end of Kusama, I was only able to read from NVMe about 15 blocks per second, like 2 transactions, one from number to hash, one from hash to actual block. So even if you have the whole thing locally, it will be quite slow. So we would really want to hash it.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's a problem, I can even build like another database which will just contain hashes if necessary. And just have like blocks and hashes separately.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. Maybe it will be better. But yeah, let me first try hashing the whole block and we'll see.
Okay. Sorry, I was interrupting your update, Serge, if you want to keep going from that point.
No, that's it. I'm gonna keep working on removing RxJS from this chain archive class and using native JavaScript with async iterators. And I will try this hashing block to avoid unnecessary RPC query.
Okay. Can you shoot me an update on Discord to Nazar and I, or on the one of the channels to for when we get that ready? We're kind of up to the deadline here for the wire, so I just want to make sure that we're not, once we have another iteration of this testing, that we can immediately sync up and discuss it versus having to wait till we have a call again in order to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Serge? All right, Liu-Cheng, if you want to turn off your video, I think we'll stop having these issues. So maybe if you just go audio only. It looks like you're frozen again. Okay. So bad connection. Oh, pretty terrible. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to have Liu-Cheng on the call today. We're going to figure out a different way to be able to get him on these meetings. I know Google services tend to get throttled and blocked in China a lot. That's probably the issue here. Okay, so on my update, mostly coordination and sync meetings. We had a discussion with Liu-Cheng yesterday. Nazar and I, we talked about the decoupled execution design architecture quite a bit. We've got some ideas on how to get started there. Liu-Cheng is going to be focused more on doing documentation upgrades and some refactoring upgrades of some of Nazar's code as a way to get more familiar with it and improve it in the meantime. We've reached out to Parity. They have a request, like a kind of partnership consulting request. So we've reached out to them to see if we can maybe get some advice from them on how to do the decoupled execution. It's not really an issue with the protocol design itself as it is of how to make it work within the context of Substrate, which is the bigger challenge. And so we have a bunch of ideas on how we can make that work, but probably they're all very inefficient. And so we're just trying to get, their input on the best way to do this. We also need to reach out to Substrate builders as well, but we're going to be talking to them next week as we do our milestone review. So we can address that with them then and see if they can put us in touch with anybody on that. We also had a call with Ozgun to discuss the farmer planning, so I touched on that earlier, over the next few weeks. And then I met up with David Say again yesterday, and we went through the transaction spamming attacks on decoupled execution in quite a bit more detail, and equivocation attacks. Just like the farmer can equivocate, the executor can also equivocate on the transaction blocks it's producing. So we've got a good kind of theoretical model on how to handle all those. David's actually working on some optimization modeling for this, so that he can kind of show us what the latency trade-off is for a given security level against these transaction spamming attacks. Kind of like as we discussed at the offsite, like as we segregate these account addresses across the transaction blocks, then we incur some latency overhead on this. But David believes there's like actually a sweet spot here that we can find, like where the two curves intersect, where we can get like very, very negligible latency increase, but like several orders of magnitude security increase from transaction spamming attacks. Yeah, once he has that, you and I can talk about that more, Nazar. I'm also working with Srivatsan on detailing the equivocation attacks better. The way that it's implemented right now is actually insecure. There's still a couple, and it's not just us, it's, I think, the Substrate implementation of the way it does equivocation. There's actually some edge case attacks you can still do that need to be properly handled. So I'm working with Srivatsan to better identify those so that we can figure out a plan for how we're going to handle them in our code as well. And that again applies to both farmer blocks and executor blocks. Eventually, we'll have the same issue with equivocation. Otherwise, the other big thing is we have the milestone review with Parity Substrate Builders, which is Tuesday. Yeah, it's in 1 week. There's actually a lot we have to do to prepare for this. They sent an email to me. I think, did I send that to you, Nazar? Were you CC'd on that with what we need to do to prepare for the milestone review?
I do not remember, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, so we have to send them, so they're gonna have a runtime engineer on the call. We have to send them like a packet, like an email with a bunch of code links and explanations of like the milestone and how we achieved, kind of like we did for the milestone reviews or the submissions for the Web3 grant. So we're gonna need to spend a little bit of time like Monday of next week actually preparing for that. So we can talk about that more in the next DevSync call. It's not really, we've already done all the code, we just need to actually prepare something which makes it approachable to somebody, because we have a massive project, obviously. Somebody from the outside needs to be able to come in and quickly look at the code and understand it, give a thumbs up, give comments, give feedback. And we have to give a presentation as well. It's going to be like a 45-minute call, so everybody will be there for that, everybody on the engineering team, to go through that with them and present. We'll probably break it up. Again, like we did before, instead of giving demos, we'll probably give like 5-minute code overviews of different parts of the project that people are working on. But like I said, we'll discuss that at the DevSync on Monday in more detail to prepare. And then the other thing, the other big push, of course, is the Kusama archiver. Well, we don't have Leo here, so I was going to talk about that with him. I guess we'll have to do that offline. Nazar has got Kusama uploaded to this share drive, or this droplet volume, which we're using. And he's going to be uploading the other 5 soon that he's done. And then over the next week, as these other chains finish syncing, he's going to be uploading those as well. There's a script which we can use to which we can like periodically run to go ahead and update these archives to whatever the last version of these different chains are, so that whenever we restart, the test net and we need to resync from Genesis, we've got at least the up-to-date or a more recent version. Although we'll probably always have to sync the last 100 blocks, 1,000 blocks, whatever, over the API. We don't want to have to sync 10 million blocks over the network API, or 1 million. Yeah, Nazar is going to be transferring that data over. Right now, everything is shared on one instance. So that means that we have the archival history with all the RocksDB databases. We have 2 substrate databases, one for the RPC node, one for the Bootstrap node. So that's 2x the size of the blockchain data that we're archiving. Plus we have the farmer plot on that as well. So that's currently a 250 gigabyte drive. We need to update that to be a larger drive. Yeah, I guess, I don't know who's best to do that. Justin, Nazar, I want Leo to take this over, but he's not here right now. I guess I'll talk to Leo one-on-one, and then we can have him do that. But Leo's going to take over responsibility for managing this instance right now, and making sure that these scripts are up to date. And then, yeah, I guess we just need to figure out, like, the bottleneck right now is getting this upload process to move at like 1,000 blocks per second, or sorry, the seeding process to work at like 1,000 blocks per second versus 10 blocks per second, or else it's going to be weeks to process this data. So please update us as you make progress on that, Serge, and we can manage expectations here on when this is going to be when this is going to launch. We've already talked to on Finality, and they are they're aware of what we're doing. They're able to help us. If you are using on Finality, Serge, for anything on the public API point, that is all rate limited. We have a private account with them that Nazar has set up, a private API, and they have like removed all restrictions from that for us because they're aware of kind of the importance of what we're doing. So if there's a bottleneck anywhere with requesting data from OnFinality, or we're getting rate limited or anything like that, then let's use that. So you can just get that info. We can share that account with you. We have like, you know, in their like web console, we have like a Subspace account, or Nazar has an account. We've got an API key, so we can use that if that's a problem. And they're like aware of what we're doing. They're very excited about it. They're trying to help us. Probably going to be an announcement about this once we have the archiver working, like maybe next week, we'll start talking about an announcement. But they're excited that we're building on what they're doing. Okay. Liu-Cheng, can you hear us? Give it one last try.
Okay, I'm back now.
Weird.
Well,
Guess not. Okay. Any questions for me? Any comments? All right. Well, we'll have most of you guys back, or a couple of you guys, on the storage API sync tomorrow. Otherwise, I guess as a group, we'll be back on the call Monday for the dev sync. So everybody have a good weekend if I don't get to talk to you before then.
See
See you all. Bye-bye.
thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.